Yarana Fahotato. Hello to all of us. This is our story tonight. This story is from Tonga, and this is this is an important story from Tongan history. This is the story about the origin of the Kava. The reason I'm telling it is that this story came from a book called Tongan Myths and Tales by Edward Winslow Gifford. And in the footnote, this story is attributed to, the informant for this story was Malakai Lavulo. And he's like the chief ancestor for all the Lavulo people. And so this is a story for the Lavulo people, particularly, but for all Tongans and for anyone else who's interested. A long time ago, there was this chief in Tonga named Loau, and he lived in a place called Ha'amea. And he's a famous chief, but his name doesn't appear in the genealogies as best as I know. And so I think he predates the Tu'i Tonga chiefs who started in about 950 AD. But anyway, Loau had this servant named Fevanga. And Fevanga was from an island called Eueiki. And he stayed in Ha'amea with Loau. But after a while, Fevanga wanted to go back to his home island. And his wife's name was Fefafa. And Loau returned to Eueiki, to his family, to his wife, and they had a daughter named Kava now. And it was just a short visit, but Fevanga didn't come back quickly. And so after a while, Loau, he kind of missed Fevanga, and he got in his rowing canoe with his men, and they rowed to Eueiki. When they get to Eueiki, it was almost night. And what they did is they put their canoe behind the house of Fevanga, and they put the hama, the outrigger, up against a kape plant. It's a great big plant. Looks like Luau, but it's bigger, and it's not a plant that you'd normally eat. You could cook it, but it's going to irritate your mouth. And Loau came out. Man, Fevanga came out of the house. He was happy to see Loau. And Loau went to look for some food. Fevanga went to look for some food for his visitor, Loau. But he couldn't find any because at that time there was a famine in Eueiki and there wasn't really any food to find. And he came back and he said to Loau, he suggested to Loau, why don't you go down by the beach? It's cooler down there. So Loau and his men, they went down to the beach, and this gave Fevanga the chance. He moved the canoe and he took that kape plant and he cut it up and he put the root in his umu, in his oven, underground oven, to cook it. And they didn't have any meat. And the daughter, so Fevanga and Fefafa, they killed their daughter and they roasted her in the umu with the kape plant. And then later on, Loau came back and they opened up the umu. And Loau saw that they had cooked their daughter. And he was appreciative of the gesture, the kindness. But he said, no, I don't want to eat her. This is what you do. Cut off the head, bury the head in one place, bury the body in another place. And then you watch what grows out of the grave where the head is buried. And then you come back to Tongatapu, to Ha'amea, and you tell me what you have seen. So Loau and his men, they went back to Tongatapu, to Ha'amea. And what they did was, Fevanga and Fefafa, they watched the grave where their daughter's head was buried. And out of the grave grew the Kava plant, and at the other end, a sugar cane. And then a rat came and it ate the Kava plant. And it was like intoxicated, and it was like weak, paralyzed. And that rat went to the sugar cane and it ate the sugar cane, and then it was strong again, active again. And so it's known that when you eat Kava, you'll have sugar cane with it, because that goes along with the Kava. And so Fevanga, he went back to Ha'amea, to Tongatapu, and he told Loau what he had seen about the rat, what grew out of the grave, and that the rat came and ate the Kava. And Loau, when he heard that, what he said was, Kava mama, koe kilia me whaimata, koe tama a Fevanga mo Fefafa. Hapula mona tata, hakumeti mono anga, hatahake apa apa. Hamuku mono anga, hatahake hanga ki ai olovaha. which means chewing kava. It comes from a leprous woman from Faimata, the daughter of Fevanga and Fefafa. We will strain the kava in a coconut husk. We will put the kava in a bowl. We will have somebody to be the master of ceremonies. We will put the kava drink in a coconut, in a banana leaf container. And then we will have somebody to turn the mouth of the bowl to. And he had described the kava, the kava drinking ceremony. And that's the story about the origin of the kava. Now, there's a symbolism in the story. This is the symbolism I see. In Samoa, the kava represents death to life and life to death. In this story, it grew out of a grave. So death is coming to life. In Samoa, their tradition is that the kava grew out of a grave. The first tu'itonga, Ahoetu, his brothers ate him. And then their father brought Ahoetu back to life again. He had his sons vomit what they had eaten into a bowl. They put in the head of Ahoetu. They covered it with a mat. And then the next day, Ahoetu came back to life again out of that bowl. And then, okay, so that represents life, death coming to life. But in various Tongan stories, the Kava circle was a place of execution. Kaulu Fonua Fekai, he was one of the chiefs, the kings of Tonga. His father was assassinated. And when he captured his father's assassins, he executed them in a Kava circle. There was another time there were some fishermen. They were really late in coming to the Tu'itonga. And he said, I'm going to execute you now. Go into the Kava circle. Okay, so it was like a place of execution where life goes to death. But in other stories, it's death coming to life. And one time I went and told some stories to some young men. Well, I was going to go tell some stories to young men. And I took a kumete, a bowl, and I covered it with a mat. And the symbolism is, I'm telling these stories about these old-time people. And through the stories, they live again. I want them to live again. I want to meet them in the, at least, if not, if I can't make them live again, at least I'll meet them in the next life. The story is done.